Mr. President, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor for me as President of Finland to speak after the King of Sweden. He mentioned that he has been in Belém before. I haven't, this is my first time, but I have a memory from 1992 and the Rio conference. At the time, I was a young trainee at the Finnish embassy in Washington, D.C., and my job was to cover the Rio conference. Now, I know there are a lot of cynics who are following our discussion and our speeches here today, and to them I'd like to perhaps give a little bit of optimism, because I actually think that the UN Framework Convention for Climate Change and the COP meetings in general, as well as the Paris Agreement, have been a success story of multilateralism which currently is being challenged. Now, I have some good news and some bad news. The good news is that, as recently reported by the UN, we are at long last bending the global emissions curve downwards. So basically we are emitting less CO2 than before. That is, if we stick to our commitments. The bad news, of course, is that the direction might be right, but the pace is, as the King of Sweden just noted, way too slow. Now, COP30 is a crucial step on this path. Whether we will permanently lose the 1.5-degree goal depends on the decisions here and now. In my short speech, I would like to underline three critical elements which I believe will ensure the success of COP30. First, we must all lead by example. At COP, each party has an equal say, regardless of their size. And of course, in international relations, this is not always the case. So we are collectively accountable. Yes, the largest emitters must lead the way in reducing emissions, and they must do it now, but the rest of us need to act in an equally responsible manner. And here, please stop blaming your neighbor. I'm not blaming Sweden, but the key is that we must look in the mirror and see what we ourselves can do in this COP30. The blame game doesn't work. Nostalgia is no better driver than cynicism. So therefore we must turbocharge the transition away from fossil fuels. All of us are in a position to do so, must urgently provide the necessary financial and other support to help the most vulnerable countries adapt. Leading by example means giving a voice to those most affected by climate change. So let me applaud the COP presidency, Brazil, for highlighting the role of the indigenous people in climate action, as well as underline the importance of the COP adopting an ambitious gender action plan. My second point is to put science in the driver's seat. While the states gathered here have different interests, we all share a common goal of ensuring a livable planet for future generations. And the only way we can do it is to rely on science. Not a single person in this room wants to pass on devastation to their children and grandchildren. We have the best scientists at our disposal, and they are unanimous that delaying climate action would have consequences that are devastating for all and irreversible for some. There are no excuses. At the same time, we need to recognize the growing amount of disinformation around climate science as an attempt to rattle the multilateral system and slow down a clean transition. When we face difficult political choices, debate is necessary, and it has to be frank and honest. Remembering our common goal, we must not yield to efforts stoking polarization. My third and final point is to say that be bold. Be bold. We need at least 3 things to solve the climate crisis. 1 is regulation and targets. 2 is financing, in other words, money. And 3 is innovation. You can't pick and choose one of them. They go hand in hand. So please don't pit climate action and growth as some kind of enemies. They're friends. They go hand in hand. Numerous encouraging examples show that decoupling carbon emissions from economic growth is possible. To do this, we need to invest in clean technologies and make sure that those who most need them have the access. Investment for climate change is the growth and prosperity plan for this century. So let me finish by noting that COP30 must send a clear message that the green transition is here to stay and that fossil fuels have no future. 10 years after Paris, let's make sure Belém will be remembered as a success too. And let me finish with a Finnish saying which I disagree with. In Finnish, we have a saying that a pessimist will never be disappointed. The problem, of course, is that a pessimist is often quite cynical. And let me assure you that pessimists will never solve the climate crisis. Optimists and realists will. Thank you very much.
Convidamos para a manifestação o vice-primeiro-ministro de Guiné Equatorial, senhor Gaudêncio Messu.
Excelentísimo señor Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva, presidente de la República Federativa de Brasil. Excelentísimo señor Antonio Gutiérrez, secretario general de las Naciones Unidas. Excelencias, señoras y señores, jefes de Estado y de Gobierno y representantes de los países miembros de las Naciones Unidas aquí presentes, distinguidos delegados e invitados todos, señoras y señores, permítanme tomar la palabra en este evento tan significativo en nombre de Su Excelencia Obiang Mbasogo, presidente de la República de Guinea Ecuatorial, quien por razones de su apretada agenda no ha podido asistir a esta cumbre personalmente como había sido su deseo. Ante todo expreso mi gratitud al excelentísimo presidente